Welcome to the Gestalt 3-minute series. This is unit number 16, Style and Authenticity. So authenticity is something very key in Gestalt and in a number of therapies. Authenticity means being fully yourself, and it's something we encourage, we facilitate. We want people to be true to themselves. We want to help them find out who they are and bring that more fully into relationship. So here what we're talking about in terms of style is a person's way of being in the world. Now, as I talked about in paradoxical theory of change, we don't want to just fundamentally change that straight away. We want to be with however it is that they are. And style helps us understand this. Often these styles of being in the world were developed through what we call these creative adjustments, particular circumstances generally that we grew up in, that were difficult, that were challenging, that might have been traumatic, and each of us found our own ways to adjust. And through that, we've developed our style of being in the world. Now, the point is that these styles have both positive and negative elements. So what we do is we like to take a non-pathological view of everything in Gestalt, and we like especially first to start with, well, how does this style work for you? Well, it doesn't. I'm very, like me, very narrowly focused a little bit on the spectrum, a bit Asperger's-y, and people feel I ignore them, or I'm just focusing on what I'm doing and I forget the rest of the world. Okay, well, but let's talk about what's good about that. Well, I can really focus and do my work, and I don't get distracted by anything, and I'm very good at persisting. So, we uncover everything about their style that works for them and that keeps them doing whatever that is. And then we ask the other question, well, where doesn't it work for you? And then we explore that in this non-pathologizing way and, probably get a history of where that particular style of being in the world has not worked for them. Another example is disassociation. It's something I do at times when I'm in shame or something. I disassociate, I disconnect from my body. So again, that doesn't always work very well in relationship, but we take this sort of positive, non-judgmental view and we say, well, where does it work for you? Where is it helpful? Well, I say, well, it helps me put me in a creative space actually when I'm disassociated. I'm disconnected from the surroundings and I can see things in a bigger picture and things are kind of a bit soft focus and I can put myself in my own safe world. So lots of things about that work for me. And then of course there's all the things that don't work so well that we can explore. So what we're doing here is we're helping the person own their style more fully, say, yeah, this is me, this is how I am in the world. And also perhaps be interested in where they might expand that, where they might try something different. And that's where, for instance, we do the Gestalt experiment to help them encounter a different way of being and practice doing that and seeing what that's like in a safe situation. Now, the other area that I also talk about in this light is what I call the unvirtues, which is basically the parts of ourselves, you could say the shadow self in Jungian terms, but here I'm using the word unvirtue because the things I think about myself as virtuous may be, I'm very persistent, for instance. Now, persistence is a virtue, it's very useful, it's one of my traits. What the unvirtues does, though, is it says, well, within each virtue, there's an unvirtue. So where is the self-interest, you could say, in my persistence? Well, if I'm persistent and I keep going, then I'm the last one standing. I win the prize. Everybody else just sort of falls about because they're tired, but I'm going to get there in the end. I don't have to be brilliant. I just have to be persistent. Or my persistence earns me sometimes recognition because I achieve things, and that gives me kudos. So we're always looking for the kind of underbelly side of what people constitute as their virtues. And that helps bring about a kind of an ability to own often what's painful in relationship or what has a negative impact on other people, because we always like to see the shiny side of ourselves. Of course, there's the critical voice as well, but often there's a split between a critical part of ourselves and a part of ourselves which just wants to see ourselves as wonderful and doesn't like criticism. So this isn't the same as self-criticism. This is really without shame, in other words, with lots of support, being able to own the self-interested sides, not to talk about our good intentions, but to talk about, the places where we just want what we want and where we go after that. And by making it safe in therapy to explore that and talk about that, people can come to know the so-called underbelly of themselves and own that more fully in relationship.